Hi, everyone. It's JL Rothstein here, author of the Heaven Sent series. My new book, Atonement, is out now. You can check it out on Amazon or out on my website at jlrothstein.com. Thanks for joining. Today, we are here with my segment, Three Questions With, and I am very excited. I have a fellow author, Twitter friend, Facebook friend, Instagram friend. We are on all social platforms together. Nicole Thomas, welcome to the show, Nicole.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to get a chance to talk about my book with everyone.
Yes, I am so excited too. So I have bought this book, reviewed this book, put it up on Amazon. I was very excited to talk about this book. So Tales of El Hanai. So tell
Yes.
us about the book and where people can get it.
This is the book, Tales of El Hanai. It's available on Amazon and iBooks. You can get it ebook and paperback on Amazon, though.
Excellent. So do you want to tell us a little bit about the book?
It's a faith-based fantasy book. It follows the path of Alric, who's the main character, as he discovers who he is in the kingdom or the land of El Hanai. He's faced with a lot of betrayal from almost every part of his family. Somebody's just out to get him. The neighboring kingdoms are after the throne. His sister, everything just turns out to not be what he initially, grew up thinking it was. So he hit 16 and his world is completely turned upside down, and he has to make his way to find out who he is and who he's meant to become.
Yeah, that is fantastic. So like I said, I love this book. I think, it is a hero's journey for sure in the book, but I would also classify it as high fantasy. This is not Earth. This is a different world.
Yes.
So some tremendous world building here. And we were chit-chatting a little bit before the show, and I said this was, and in my review, I said this was Game of Thrones meets X-Men, because you have all these kingdoms fighting over who's going to rule and fighting with each other at the same time that you have these individual people that have powers, and they're not all the same powers. It's very, very different. So I loved it. It was action based. It was plot based. There was a lot going on, and I think people will love it. So I hope they check it out. So we are going to jump right into our three questions, which, to remind people that are tuned in and watching, you gave me the questions ahead of time, but not the answers. So I'm very interested to hear your answers as well. So, in talking about, you obviously work full time, as do I. So talk to us a little bit about how you're balancing working full time with writing.
Actually, right now, I'm no longer working full time.
With COVID.
Yeah, COVID.
COVID world.
But before this, I was a lounge supervisor. So I was working full time when I wrote this book. And really, I was going into work, and I was, I'm at the front desk, but I was on my phone every minute, like typing up a chapter or a line that would pop into my head. On my breaks, I'm sitting in the break room and I'm just typing away, trying to get this, out of my head and down on paper. So it was I just had to get it out.
And so you felt sort of compelled to write the story. You would say that this story sort of came to you, and it was like, I have to find an outlet. I'm either writing it on paper, or I'm on my phone, or I'm on my computer doing this. That is pretty incredible. How did you get the idea for the book?
Well, it came to me in January of last year. No, this is August, so January of this year, really.
And all these years are mixing together. We're going to go into 2021 and be like, 2020 was the year we all lost.
I know. It's like you have no idea what day it is anymore.
No,
everything just blurs. But it came to me one morning. I was literally sleeping, and I heard word for word the first chapter of this book. And, it starts out, we were supposed to die together. And it's like I could hear Alana's voice saying this to me. And I'm sleeping. I'm like, what is this? But I couldn't ignore it. So I got up. I'm getting ready for work, and I'm on my phone, and I'm jotting the dialogue down. And I was almost late for work because I just kept writing and writing and writing. And I'm just like, well, what is this? And I heard a voice say El Hanai. And I'm like, well, what does that mean? And so I Googled the word. It's not a real word. I couldn't find it anywhere. But I looked up the two parts of the word, the root and then the prefix.
Yep.
And so El is for God. And then Hanai is Hawaiian for adopted family.
Oh, okay.
So
Very interesting.
It just worked out. And if, when you read the story, you'll see how it pulls all of that in to one theme of being, not necessarily blood, but family.
Yeah. That is amazing. So second question really goes to process, the actual process of writing. So are you a big outliner? Do you sort of just sit down? It sounds like with the first book, you were sort of compelled to write. It wasn't really an outline. You just sat down and started writing it. But I know you've written the second book of the series. So was your experience in writing and the process of writing, whether or not it's outlining or not outlining, different in the first book to the second?
It was a little different. The second book took me longer to write. I had found myself getting writer's block a lot, and so I would have to take long breaks, to just let it sit and then come back to it. I still didn't outline. I kind of let the characters tell me where they were going.
You're a rebel.
I am. I knew the ending of the book, so I knew how I wanted to end it, but I didn't know how I was going to get there. So it was a journey for everybody involved.
Oh my goodness. So tell the audience a little bit about what's next for you, and maybe talk about the book. And I know you mentioned just before we came on that you had finished the second book, but will there be a third? Are you writing something else, and what's next for you?
Right. The second book is written. It's been edited. My husband made the cover for the first book, and he will be making the cover for the second book when he finds time. So hopefully the release for that would be the end of the year, early 2021. There will be a third book. I have started that. I'm maybe 3 chapters in. It's a work in progress.
Yeah.
I have a children's book I'm working on, picture book.
Wow.
Yeah. Illustrations are being done for that. I have started a women's fiction book called Grit.
So COVID has just turned you into a writer. You just night and day.
Yeah, I'm just constantly, and ideas just keep coming, and I'm trying to stay focused on one thing at a time. But it's like, and then I'm on Twitter, and that's where this idea for Grit came in, was from Twitter. Because how people post things, they're like, well, make a story out of this picture, or take these 3 words and that's where it came from. So the first paragraph came from that, and then I just continued it. So I'm just gonna see where that goes.
That's fantastic. But yeah, it's a very similar commentary when I talk to some of the other authors about how there's things coming in all the time and different ideas, and you go to talk to somebody, or you're on Twitter or whatever, you just get an idea, and now you're just getting bombarded almost. So you're not working full time, but obviously you're working full time. You have a family, you have the writing that you're doing every moment. So I guess from balancing, maybe talk a little bit about how you would balance the social media world against all this writing that you want to do.
Yeah, it's hard. And I mean, it's so easy to get, caught up in Twitter and sit there for hours and hours and hours.
I know.
So I do find that I have to just be like, okay, I'm just going to put my phone down for a couple of hours. I'm going to go cook dinner. I'm going to go do this, and you just have to schedule it really for me. So early in the morning is my time.
I saw somebody, it's just very interesting. I saw someone on, I don't know if it was on Facebook and Instagram, it wasn't Twitter, but they were talking about how they actually time themselves, how there's like a scheduled time to be online, and how they're actually watching the clock so that they could keep themselves from being sucked into that social media void and just being there for hours on end.
Falling down the rabbit hole. That makes a lot of sense.
It really does. And I was like, wow, that is just amazing. If only I could have enough self-discipline to actually make myself do that. So yeah, well, that's fantastic. Well, I cannot thank you enough for doing this with me. This is, bits of wisdom for everybody who's watching. And I'm so glad you got the books behind you and everybody can see the fabulous cover. Does your husband share the cover with you ahead of time, or is it more like you'll see it when he's done and completed?
Well, no, I pick out the elements of the cover,
and
then I'm there hovering over his shoulder, like, no, move this here, put that there. I want this type of font. Because he went to school for graphic design. It's not what he does now, but he can, work with it. So I'm there annoying him every step of the way.
So it's not like, hey, it's all done and here it is. And you're like, great.
No.
He probably wishes it was that way.
He probably does. I'm quite sure. Because I've been nagging him. I've sent him, the picture, the image that I want on it. And I'm like, have you started yet? Did you do it? Did you start?
Well, it sounds like he has plenty of time if we're talking about in the early part of next year. It sounds like he has plenty of time to get to that. So very exciting stuff. Thank you so much. I hope everybody goes and checks out Tales of Elhanai and goes
I
and,
hope
and,
you do.
and buys it and goes to all her social media sites and finds her. And we look forward to seeing other things. So thank you again for coming on. This has been absolutely fantastic. And thanks everybody for tuning in and watching.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Bye.